Some good news for people who grew up going to the Emerald Square Mall in Attleboro. It's been bought by a company seeking to revive the mostly vacant mall. Emerald Square announced on Facebook today that it's been bought by Summit Malls Management LLC, saying they're, quote, bringing back the fun, the local love, and the kind of shopping experience that makes you want to stay a while. No word on an exact timeline for the mall.
In just 4 months' time, the shopping mall turns 70 years old. A dream started by the legendary Victor Gruen and Associates in a Minneapolis suburb that featured air conditioning, 72 stores, and marked a major shift in consumer culture in America. It could be argued that 1956 was one of the most pivotal moments in U.S. history and the one that gave us the blueprint for the mall to succeed. Elvis and rock and roll were on the rise. The newly signed Federal Highway Act gave us the interstate system and new roads across the United States, connecting us like never before. The debut of Bob Barker and The Price is Right, Cold War tensions, and the movie The Ten Commandments all were significant events 70 years ago. The U.S. was on an upward path over the years. We saw the suburbanization of our country, the rise of disco, Star Wars, and most importantly to me, and you, the rise of the American mall. From 1970 to 2002, over 800 shopping malls were built. The 80s came and went in arguably our greatest cultural decade ever, depending on what age range you ask. The 90s began and the mall was still going strong, but the next few decades saw trouble on the horizon. From 2000 to 2019, approximately 400 to 500 malls closed, were torn down, or repurposed in the United States. That is roughly 1/3 of all malls nationwide. 2020 would arrive, and the nightmare we all would wake up to in March would not only change our lives forever, but would also claim another 200 to 300 malls, cutting the original peak of malls in half from what it was at the turn of the century. Changing demographics, online shopping, and changing consumer habits were nearly a knockout blow to retail in the United States. However, once COVID came along, it added insult to injury with an additional bleak bankruptcy tab and foreclosure punches that would put the mall in the losing corner with a bleak outlook for the rounds ahead. We are currently losing 40 to 50 malls each year approximately, and it seems as if the pendulum is swinging uncontrollably at this point. On a side note, most recently this year, demolition was finally completed on the last great 3-level masterpiece of the golden age of the mall, Century 3 Mall in West Mifflin, PA, RIP. Another 3-story shopping center to bring us to the current day is what the lens of my modern camera is showing us currently: the beleaguered state of the ailing Emerald Square Mall in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. Built in the late 80s during the second generation of regional mall development, the mall was situated close to US Route 1 and Interstate 295 and was expected to be a catalyst for the area. Named to coincide with the 50th anniversary of The Wizard of Oz, weird choice, there was no yellow brick road or whimsical creatures stirring at this brand new minted spectacle of engineering. Yet if you look closely at the glass lighting adorning the fabricated columns of the mall, one could argue that they strikingly resemble the crown of a prominent character in the film. But this fairy tale property will not have a happy ending. It's a sight all too common. The mall lost major anchors, competition drove to other malls nearby, the sale of the mall to Kohan Investment Group is a death blow to any mall. Along with aging facades, declining traffic, and a global pandemic are just about the end of any story retail related. And coming current day, folks, hello, Anthony, creator of Ace's Adventures here, and once again, welcome to the Emerald Square Mall in Massachusetts, just on the southern end of the middle of Massachusetts near the Rhode Island border. This is a property that is one of the few that I kind of knew about, but didn't really pay much attention to, as I had alluded to in my previous video. I don't keep up with these properties like I used to, just too much going on, but it's one that I recently went to Massachusetts to visit some family on my father's side for the first time that I had never met before, and decided to make a mall trip out of this and film some videos. One was the Diamond Run Mall in Vermont, which you saw. My second attempt, which I'll tell you now, was the unsuccessful attempt at Steeplegate Mall in Concord, New Hampshire. There is another mall, the Berkshire Mall in Western Massachusetts, that was also unsuccessful. These properties are surprisingly being more and more watched than they were in previous days. 10, 15 years ago, when I first started doing this, it seemed like it was open season on these malls. But this one is an incredible example of just how magnificent a mall can make you feel. It has some modern touches to it, but you can see the bones of what used to be there. For the most part, relatively speaking, it looks pretty much the same as it did when it opened, except for obvious, some visual changes and storefronts that have changed over the years. But the diner sign, which you're going to see here in a second, is all original, as well as most of the design. And I believe that on the right-hand side of the shot you're seeing right now, I believe those circular structures were for either like a mall type kiosk with information, or like a what's a good example, like one of those watch stores or something like that, a small retailer, maybe like a Pearson Pagoda or something along those lines were in those structures at one point, but now they're just empty. So in a nutshell, I gave you quite the history lesson about the year when the mall started, and talked a little bit about this property. And currently, as we speak, it is owned by Summit Properties USA, which has quite a large portfolios in New York City. It's a real estate investment firm in the New York area. So we'll see if they have better luck with redeveloping this property. And it's just the same old story. I mean, you can only tell the same story so many times when you are visiting these malls. It is struggling quite a bit. But when I say it's struggling, I want to be clear that I'm not saying it from a standpoint that I'm glad that it's struggling. So I want to address something real quick in terms of the malls and what I do. So, to anybody who's watching this who might be mall management or security or an employee of the mall, I want to be very clear that I film these properties and have been doing so for a decade with absolutely no intention of bringing disrespect to the property or any kind of enjoyment that the mall is dying. Is it a fascination from a philosophical and visual standpoint to witness these malls in this state? Yes, it interests me to encounter such a dystopian environment, and I think that's a large driving factor behind why I enjoy doing this so much. But I am not in here to wish ill will on any of these properties. I'm here simply to document these because if you think about it, our previous generation, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, yes, there is visual evidence of what our life as Americans was like. But technology, if there's one thing that it has done that is excellent, is it's the ability to document and technology to digitize our world for historical purposes. I someday am going to be long gone. I'm going to be in the ground and an afterthought to this world. And if at least I can say that my small contribution to society was documenting a way of life that seems to be so quickly forgotten by a large sector of our world, then I am proud to do so. The reason why I'm heading down this path, you'll understand at the end of this little monologue here / rant speech that I'm talking about, is because over the years, for the most part, I have had zero issues filming these properties. They're pretty much just vacant with not much attention paid to them. This mall is kept up in pretty good condition. They did have a significant water leak several years ago that closed the mall for a while, but my opinion is this place is well kept. It's very clean. I felt very safe in here. It's in a nice area, and it's visually a stunning property. You know, you will never see, probably, malls like this built again. There is a report from Consumer Reports that the modern consumer is starting to have a taste for retail and an in-person experience again. It may be a modified one, but maybe post-COVID and with the next generation kind of coming of age, maybe they are hopefully, boomer speaking here, losing the desire to shop online. Yes, I know there are some things it is convenient for, but it would be great to see another round of a new trend of, instead of malls declining, seeing new shopping experiences and new trends and new places opening, and the mall once again having a life in whatever iteration proves to be successful with the generations that are born in the 2000s and whatnot. But to be determined, I suppose. So this is an excellent property. I'm very happy that I got to see it. It was a very, like I said, very visually stunning mall. But unfortunately, as we're getting to the end of this story, I had a very negative experience at the end of this property. So malls have rules. I understand them. I respect them. I mean no ill will or distraction from these properties' daily operations. However, as I was approaching the end of my filming in this mall, I was approached by security coming up the escalators. They asked me that there's no filming in the mall. I casually just kind of said, yeah, okay, no problem, and stopped. And usually that's the end of it. However, this was not the end of the story. So after I had the real brief interaction, casual, polite interaction with the security guards, a few minutes went by, and I wanted to get one last Instagram picture of me in front of this Sears here. So I set my phone down at the time and was going to take a quick selfie of me in front of the mall. Just a quick selfie of the Sears, and then I was going to exit the property. However, that was not the end of my interaction. So as I did not realize, one of the security guards was hiding behind the pole, sneaking up on me, and then came up to me and approached me very aggressively. Now, before I just tell the end of the story here, I want to say that I completely understand that security guards have a job to do. There are rules of a mall, and I understand that, and I'm not looking to interfere with that. However, it's my opinion as someone who's done this for 10 years with literally next to 0.1% ever having any issues ever with any kind of security. It's my opinion that this is not really that big of a deal. If I'm not recording people, I'm just documenting something for historical context. You know, I'm when I go into these places, I'm patronizing the mall and their businesses that are open. I was planning on going to the food court. Was planning on going into one of the toy stores and purchasing something, and you know, for on maybe a low level amount. I mean, I do have a decent amount of people who watch these videos, and I would like to think, and I think I know, that sometimes people will go to the mall to see it after they see my videos. So I'm kind of helping, you know, bring attention to the property and drawing a little bit of business. Ultimately, it probably doesn't help, but you know, I have no ill means. But, and anyways, to end my story here. The gentleman approaches me very aggressively and immediately tells me I have to leave the property, and if I return, I will be trespassed upon and arrested. Aggressive from the start, no need for that. But then, as he's walking just a few feet behind me in a very threatening manner, consistently starts to mock me, make fun of me, tell me that I'm old and have no job, and it gives me a bunch of these like threats and just demeaning behavior that was just completely not necessary. I was just walking out, and I never said anything negative to this gentleman. I just said, is it really that big of a deal? That's literally all I said, and he just continued to, I don't know if he's just annoyed with other people who have maybe been caught in here doing the same thing, but just continued to be extremely inappropriate and harassing to me as I walked out of the property. So I eventually started giving it back to him a little bit because I'm like, this is ridiculous. And as we walk outside, walks right up to the back of my car, takes a picture of my vehicle. Didn't really matter because I was at a rental car, so I didn't really care. Not that I ever felt threatened at all, because I did. I was much bigger than this kid and could have handled myself if I had to, let's be honest. But then as I get in my car, tells me, if you think you're so cool and tough, why don't you get out of the car and fight me, and starts swearing at me and cursing at me and being extremely inappropriate. Listen, you are on the clock to do a job. You can kick somebody out of a mall, they can follow rules, but under no circumstances is that kind of behavior appropriate. And I do have a screenshot of this gentleman in the corner of one of my shots, and I'm tempted to upload it to social media, but I'm going to be the bigger person, let it go. But if anybody from this property is watching this video, do better. Be kinder to your customers, which I was one of. You can enforce your rules, but you can do so in a respectful way. As somebody who's been in management for a long time, I would never talk to a patron like that, and quite frankly, it's a disgrace of how I was treated. So I left, got my drone footage across the street from the comfort of my vehicle, and it's fine because I got what I needed, and here's the mall, so I get the last laugh. So, at anywho, that's it. That's all I had to say. I hope you enjoyed the history lesson and my little informational talking about the mall and how I felt about the property. You're going to hear some more music from the amazing artist that I put up here from Bandcamp. They're called Haircuts for Men. They haven't put out a track in a couple years. I hope they get back to it. Along with Waterfront Dining, they are one of the amazing vaporwave artists that I have used over the years. So I hope you all subscribe. You know, my channel has been dormant for quite a long time, and I'm trying my best to revive it. The views are low, but I'm just going to keep doing what I do and just keep enjoying it for what I enjoy doing it for. And I do think that I put out some pretty decent stuff. So once again, I want to end on another positive note. I am going to be the catalyst for change. I want all mall creators to get along, and I want everybody to be friends with everybody. Please go check out all of the other retail creators in the area and who do this nationwide. There are a lot of great mall creators out there. There are some small creators that, like the Mall Fox, Exploring Retails with Andrew. There's a bunch of other ones that I could mention. Kristen from Unicom Productions, of course, Sal, who's doing very well, and even Dan Bell is back in the game. I'm going to continue to mention people and be positive and bring positivity into this atmosphere and create a winning culture for all of us, because the more of us that are getting along and doing this together, the more attention we can bring to this topic. And maybe, one last little funny thing I want to say is maybe that movie The Backrooms will showcase what we have been doing for years. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. This is Anthony, creator of with Ace's Adventures, please follow me on Instagram at AcesAdventures1. Consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. I have reopened that to get a little bit of fuel for the Ace Mobile. And please like and subscribe and interact with this video. And I will be back soon with more mall content.